You give generously, you love deeply, and you show up completely for everybody in your life. And yet, and still, you end up running on empty and wondering why, when it's your turn, nobody is ever there to give it back to you. Listen, I know this all too well because I used to be the overgiver, especially in relationships. I thought that if I gave more, loved deeper, and showed up better than anybody else, then when it was my turn, they would show up for me in the same way that I had showed up for them. But unbeknownst to me, what I was really doing is teaching them that I was okay with being last on the list. And I was so convincing, they believed me and had no problem putting me there. But, friend, what I really learned is that people will take your full cup and have no problem handing it back to you empty. And who is always the one that is left when there is nothing else left to give? Friend, if that is you and you keep wondering why your overgiving keeps leaving you empty, let's really get into it. So often, we don't even see ourselves as an overgiver. We see ourselves as generous. We have a big heart and we love helping people. And listen, all of those things can be true, right? And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. There's nothing wrong with being generous, having a big heart, and wanting to help people. The danger in that is when you don't recognize that it's coming from a place of fear. Fear that you won't be chosen, fear that they won't see your value and choose you or want you around. And then you just start going overboard with it. You give more time, you give more energy, you give more presence, you give more money, you give of any and every resource that you have because if you are giving, then it kind of guarantees your position. But, friend, it really doesn't guarantee your position. What it does guarantee is that people will end up seeing you for just what you have to offer and not seeing your big heart. They will not recognize just how valuable you are without you having to constantly overgive, without you picking up the tab, without you paying a bill that never seems to be paid until it's time for somebody to call you to do it. There are so many ways that we show up and we perform. We play this role, we fall into this pattern, and we do it over and over and over again with the hope that one day they're going to recognize how amazing we are. One day they're going to recognize, oh my goodness, look at how much they care. Look at how generous, what a big heart they have. They care so much. And instead of seeing you as this beautiful person that you are, they end up seeing you for what they can get from you. Because we don't realize that our overgiving is teaching them that, hey, when you find yourself in a jam, I'm the one that you call. When you have a problem that needs to be solved, even if it's a problem that you created yourself on repeat, I'm not speaking from experience, okay? Can you tell? That kind of touched a nerve, didn't it? Sorry. Little flashback there. But it's just so interesting how we fall into these patterns with people and we don't always recognize it when it's happening because you yourself think that you're operating just solely out of your good heart and you wanting to show up, you wanting to help, you wanting to be there. And all of those things are beautiful when the recipient of it is someone who already values it and values you, whether you are doing things for them or not. Just your mere presence is gift enough. And if you are constantly in a dynamic where someone always has their hand out, or you are the one who's constantly volunteering to help, but when you are down, and you could use a pick me up or a shoulder to cry on or someone to help you out from time to time. And then when you look around, there's no one there. So it's so important for you to just take a pause for the cause and recognize, have I been overgiving? And is it really necessary for me to be the one to constantly pick up all their pieces and solve all of their problems? This is also a dynamic that can show up in parenting because as parents, we want to solve everything for our kids. We don't want them hurt in any kind of a way. We don't want them to experience the grief, the hardships, the difficulty, the challenges, the pain that can come with this life. And we'll do anything. We will burn ourselves out. We will drain bank accounts. We will do all of these things. But what ends up happening is you can rob them of their opportunity to develop the skills to problem solve for themselves, to learn that they can trust themselves to support themselves even in difficult times or challenges. And then we create this fragile being who doesn't know how to respond to life when life gets hard. So we don't always realize that if we are the one who is constantly going above and beyond to do everything and make it easier for someone else, sometimes we are robbing them of the very lessons that they need to learn in order to be able to become the person that they're supposed to be, to learn how to be responsible, to learn how to take action and take steps to get themselves back up on their feet. Not to say that we should never help our kids, because any good parent, you're going to want to do something. You're going to want to help. But we also don't want to disable them from being able to develop the skills to be able to solve things on their own. There's qualities, there's character, there's traits and skills that they develop when they are able to do those things for themselves. So we don't want to rob them of those opportunities to learn and to develop to be the grown up that they should be. So really take a pause for the cause and recognize where this might be showing up in your relationships and ask yourself, are you doing them a service or are you doing them a disservice? And ask yourself, if you are constantly overgiving, but you always feel depleted in that dynamic, is overgiving really helping you to experience the kind of connection that you crave? If you are someone who struggles with people pleasing, recognize where that is rooted in, because a lot of times it so much has to do with the fear that if we are not taking care of someone else and being everything to them, then what use do they have for us? And if someone really feels that way, that's not someone that you want to be in relationship with. That is not someone that you want to continue to build a connection or a future with. So really take note. Is your people pleasing and your overgiving? Are these cousins tag teaming and got you in a situation? Because friend, we can't go on this way. It's really not sustainable, truly. As the overgiver, what would happen if you actually made yourself the recipient of your overgiving. Even if it was just for one day, where instead of filling everyone else up, you decided this radical thing to do is to just focus in on filling you up. How would you feel if your cup was the one running over? How would that feel for you to be the one to receive all of this goodness that you are putting out there? I know that it's often hard to even consider putting yourself first because in our society, if you are putting yourself first, then you're selfish. You are self centered. And that really is not the truth. Does that exist? And can some people take it too far to that length where it's a negative thing? Sure. But as someone who is an overgiver, you would recognize within yourself if you were doing the most and not in a good way. You would recognize if you were really being selfish or self centered. And I'm not at all advising that. But what I am encouraging you to do is to center yourself. You should be centered within your own life. So many times we end up depleted simply because we did not center ourselves in our own life. You've centered your kids, your marriage, you've centered your career, you've centered showing up for your family, you've decentered yourself completely. And by doing that, you've taught other people that your needs don't matter when that is absolutely not true. So, what if you were to just take one day to just overgive to you for once? If you're going to overgive, why not let you be the recipient of that? You deserve the level of treatment that you give everybody else. You deserve to have that for you. And you deserve to be in relationships that mutually fill each other up. No one wants to be in a relationship where they feel like they are the one who's constantly giving and the other person never gives a thing. At some point, the person who's been overgiving breaks. At some point, you become resentful. You become angry. You may even lash out in some sort of a way. So it is so important to know that being an overgiver, it is not sustainable because you can't continue to run on empty while you're filling everybody else up. So I invite you to overgive to yourself for once, even if it's just one day. And in those dynamics that you find yourself to be giving more than you get, I'm not saying that you can't be in relationship with those people. But what I am saying is those are the relationships that you need to be centering yourself first and then helping where you can, pouring from your overflow, not from your cup. Your cup is for you. Everyone else is supposed to get your overflow, not the other way around. Because the problem is when you give people your full cup, they're going to take it and they will give it back to you empty. Okay. No problems whatsoever. So if you are finding that that's happening, it's time to readjust just how much you're actually giving. You do not need to give everything to where you are left empty and running on E. If that is happening, that's not a healthy dynamic. That's not a healthy relationship, and you deserve more than that. But that belief and understanding, knowing your own value, it comes from you over giving to you. So make yourself the priority. And a lot of times this ends up removing those relationships from your life. As soon as you start really prioritizing yourself, they either will make the adjustment if the relationship is really valuable to them, or they just end up fading off into the sunset. So it doesn't have to be some big breakup situation. It's a natural progression that happens when you finally start to prioritize yourself. So I really, really invite you to do that. So let me get you a journal prompt. Okay. Where have you been giving from an empty cup? And when was the last time someone poured into yours? Friend, this is such a good way to evaluate your relationships and evaluate who is really just about themselves and what they can get from you instead of being about themselves and about you too. There is definitely a difference. Definitely a difference. So, really use this journal prompt to evaluate some of your relationships and see where they stand and see where it is that you need to be redirecting some of that back to yourself and not just always being the one who is showing up for everyone without anyone showing up for you. It's really an invitation for you to show up for you first and then allow people to meet you there. Okay. Okay, friend, let's finish this sentence in the comments. Okay. I know I am putting myself last when I, friend. Okay, listen, I really honestly need you to drop this in the comments because this is not just for you. This is for someone else who comes and sees your comment and is like, OMG, me too. Because we don't always recognize this. But this is such a great way for you to really start seeing how this dynamic is showing up for you in your life and where it's time to make an adjustment. Okay. So we are recognizing this in the comments. Definitely drop yours and I will meet you there because I'm going to support you, friend. Okay. The conversation continues. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video just as much as I enjoyed making it for you. And like I always remind you at this time, to know me is to know I love myself some me and I don't play about me. And if you hang out with me long enough, you will love yourself so much that you won't play about you either. Okay, friend? I will meet you in the comments and I'll see you in the next video tomorrow.